So when I was 20 years old, I had what's called a spontaneous pneumothorax. And if you're finding this video because this has happened to you, kind of what goes on is that there can be a little bit of a hole or a tear that creates in that lining of the lung, and then the air that you breathe in goes into that space between your lung and your chest cavity. And as that air accumulates, it can push on the lung and basically collapse the lung down, and then your lung collapse. That's a spontaneous pneumothorax. So I'm sitting in my room when this happens and I'm like, oh wow, I'm having a heart attack at 20 years old. That seems really off schedule. And so I go to the hospital and I find out that I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, and so they fixed it, and then I go home, and then there's like a few months later where I sneezed and I had another one. I got another one from sneezing. So if you've had this issue happen, you might be freaking out a little bit because I was freaking out. So I want to explain some insights that I have now about what's going on. I didn't have them back then, and to see if that might help you out and maybe correct some issues to keep that from happening again. Let's get at it.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So to understand this spontaneous pneumothorax issue, it appears that this problem is very common for young, otherwise healthy, thin males. And that was definitely the situation with me. I was a skinny guy. And what we understand now is that there's a lot of cells in the lungs that will regenerate in a short period of time, like 2 to 3 weeks. Some of the other cells can take a year, but a lot of them regenerate pretty quickly. So for tissues in our organs to be regenerated, they first at the cellular level need to break down, and then they can regenerate and be renewed. What I didn't understand back then is that some people are really good at that breakdown part, not so great at the rebuild part. So it was Dr. Emanuel Revici who helped us understand that the body at the cellular level has a natural circadian rhythm. So during the day, we should be in what's called a catabolic state, where the body's very good at creating energy and also breaking tissues down so that they can be rebuilt and renewed. And then at night, the body should move into a more anabolic state, where the body is very good at resting and sleeping and rebuilding and repairing. So both of these states are great. The problem is some people can get stuck in one of these states or push too far into one of these states most of the time. And if that's the case, some significant health issues can come about. So for me, it appears that I was stuck too far in this catabolic state, and there's a lot of other issues that I was dealing with that make a lot of sense now that I understand this. And when a person is stuck in this catabolic state, they're really breaking tissues down, but they're not moving into the anabolic state at night so they can rebuild and repair. So if I'm constantly breaking down tissues and breaking down these organ tissues but not really rebuilding them, then that structure would become weaker. It would be easier to break a tear in that little structure and have the air escape the lungs and go into that cavity between the lungs and the chest cavity. All of a sudden it makes a little more sense that I could just sneeze and collapse a lung. It wasn't that big of a sneeze, it was just a sneeze. Another problem a person could have is that if they're not breaking down their food correctly, they're not accessing all the nutrients that they need out of that food. And when that's happening, the body still needs those nutrients to run all the functions that it needs to function. So it'll break down its own tissues to access those nutrients. So if a person has any type of digestive symptoms, like burping or bloating or acid reflux or constipation or diarrhea or nausea or even skin or acne issues, all of those are signs that the digestive process is not working correctly, and the person is probably not getting the nutrients that the body really needs from the food that they're eating. So when that's the case, the body kind of needs to eat itself. And so I was really this thin guy. I was really having a hard time adding muscle, adding weight of any kind. And it appears that what was going on is that my body was either stuck in this catabolic state where it was just in the breakdown mode all the time, or digestive issues may have been restricting my ability to access the nutrients in the food that I was eating. But either way, I was a skinny guy, so this lung tissue breakdown makes a lot of sense since my body was not really good at building tissue up. Now, smoking also has the ability to create these problems. I was not a smoker, but if you're a smoker, the chemicals in the smoke have the ability to kind of destruct that cellular structure of those alveoli cells in the lungs that kind of help everything function. So if those are kind of being broken down just from this destruction, then that could create a similar problem as well. So if a person's smoking, they might want to not do that if they're having spontaneous pneumothorax issues. But if you had this issue, what you can do is you can look to see, am I having digestive malfunctions that are restricting my ability to access that food? And we'll put a link in the description below for our video on 20 signs that you're not digesting your food properly. So you can go down and check out that video to see, are there other signs going on that there might be problems with your digestion? And then if you take steps to improve those digestive malfunctions, that improves your body's ability to access the nutrients it needs to rebuild those tissues instead of breaking them down. In chapters 3 and 4 of my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, we'll walk you through how to figure out if there are digestive malfunctions, and if so, what steps you can take to improve those. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below so you can get the whole thing totally for free. But what you want to do right now is you want to figure out, am I maybe leaning too far on that catabolic breakdown side, and am I not having the ability to move into that anabolic state at night so that those lung tissues can rebuild and repair the way that they're supposed to? So you can jump over right now and check out our video on Is My Circadian Rhythm Off? And that'll walk you through figuring out if you may be leaning too far on that catabolic side. Let us know how it goes.